So as a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, let you know a little how old I am, I grew up with Nintendo in my house. It started out with that old two-tone gray rectangular box and these little rectangle controllers that if you play too long and play too hard, they start hurting your hands. Then we upgraded to the Super Nintendo that had its little purple highlights and had rounder controllers. They were still kind of hard to hold, but they were a little bit better than the corners that we would jab our hands on. And then we moved to the N64. Now the N64, their controllers they actually put some thought into it and had grips. They had this weird third handle, but the two main handles, they fit your hands really nicely, so I didn't hurt my hands anymore. Great system. And then the GameCube was the next one that came out. Now, by the time the GameCube came out, I was in college and I was kind of taking a break from video games. But there was something that all of these systems had in common. Each of the systems had two buttons. It had the power button, it turned it on and turned it off, and then it had the reset button. And the reset button was there because every once in a while a game you're playing might have a glitch or a problem with it. It might get stuck on something. And so you just hit the reset so it would have to start over and you could go back to playing. Or if there was a time that you were getting really frustrated with the game, you weren't playing as well as you wanted to, you needed to start over, you just hit that reset button. But a lot of times, if there was something wrong with your system, if there was something wrong with the game, and hitting that reset button didn't fix it, there really wasn't much else to do other than take the game out and blow in it and see if that helps, or just take a break from playing video games for a little while. Kids don't do that today. Nowadays, my family has the Nintendo Switch, and this thing is pretty impressive. I don't think it has a reset button on it, but what it has is it is connected to the internet. And it has this ability where the makers of Nintendo and the makers of the games for Nintendo are able to update your video games behind the scenes and update your system. So we'll be sleeping at night, and even though we turned it off, it didn't actually turn off because if there's something new and improved to be added, or if there's a glitch in the system, Nintendo's fixing it while it's asleep. Sometimes we'll put in a new game and we'll have to wait a couple minutes because there's an update to the game, and it might be fixing a problem, or it might just be adding a new feature. I think it's really neat. But Nintendo's not the only one that does that, right? We have our cell phones, we have our computers, and every once in a while, I've got my cell phone here, and I've got this app store, and in the app store, I have this little red circle with the number 7 in it. And the number 7 is telling me that I have 7 different apps that need an update, or can take an update. And the updates usually are fixing bugs. The app is not performing the way it should, and so the bugs are there to fix it. Sometimes it's adding something new. But it's just this nice thing that we can just continually make the things we have. Instead of the old days, it starts to break, you just have to go out and buy a new one, or the new and improved one. Now, it just becomes new and improved on its own. All you got to do is click update. That got me thinking. I think about my own life, and where I've come from, and where I'm going, and there have been different times where I've needed an update. I've fallen into a bad habit, or maybe fallen into a bad crowd. I've developed made some choices and developed some habits that are not best for me or not best for the people around me, and sometimes I just need an update. Sometimes I'll look in the mirror and say, I don't like this about me right now, I need to fix this. But other times, I need somebody else to come alongside me and elbow me in the ribs or something to let me know, you need to improve in this area. Sometimes it's just being around someone who's better than you, right? And you look at them and it's like, I want to be more like them. So you want to update. And so I wonder if you all can relate with me about that sometimes we're just in these positions in our lives, it's like, it's time to improve. It's time to get better. We want to be growing closer to God, closer to Jesus, and it's time for an update. Now, I know that it is possible to come to church for a really long time, be a part of the church for a really long time, and not really understand what it's all about. Maybe you've come here since you were a child and you just continue to come because that's what you've always done. Maybe you come here because you have friends here and you don't want to miss the opportunity to get together with your friends. Maybe you're involved in some sort of ministry of doing good and helping out, and you want to keep doing that, and it makes you feel good. But maybe there's this chance that you just haven't really made that connection with Jesus. Why is it that we are doing what we do? It's also possible to come to church for a while and not really be challenged. You come to church and it's a safe environment, it's a fun environment, it's an enjoyable experience, and there's not really a lot of hardships that come with it. Yeah, we have hardships in our life, but not because we're a part of the church. And you can be coming to church for a really long time and never really be challenged in your faith in Jesus. Things don't really get hard. It's also possible to come to church for a really long time and over that time to kind of lose sight of what's the most important, why you're coming. Maybe church has become more of, if you're honest with yourself, a social club than it is a group of people following Jesus. Maybe it's just become a ritual or a religious thing you do, but you know deep down inside that your heart's not really in it anymore. You got a lot of things going on in your life, a lot of distractions, a lot of different things to pull your attention, and church is just one of those things. Following Jesus is just one of those things. If you can relate to this, then this message is for you. But even if you're not sure that you can relate to this, my fear is that part of the problem with coming to church for a while and being a part of the church for a while is that it's really easy to lose sight of this. You can get yourself involved in a lot of things and doing a lot of things, and you kind of forget over time to question and challenge the why behind the what. And so I want to challenge us today to consider what it is that we're all about. And it's wonderful because Jesus has provided us a beautiful parable to kind of spell this out for us. And so I'm going to be going over this parable, the parable of the sower. But I'm going to tell you that I believe I've been misinterpreting this parable for a long time. And so as we go through it, I'll explain, kind of where I've gotten it wrong. But basically, the parable of the sower, there's a farmer that's sowing his seed, throwing his seed out, and some of the seed falls along the path. And the seed that falls along the path, the birds come down and quickly eat it all up. Then some of the seed falls on rocky soil. And the rocky soil is bad because the seed can't get a very deep root, and so when the sun comes out, it scorches the seed. So it grows up a little bit, but then it gets fried. Then there's seed that falls among the thorns. And as it grows up, the thorns kind of choke it out and make it unfruitful. But then there's other seed that falls into the good soil. And in the good soil, it's able to produce crops of 100 or 60 or 30. So this is the parable that Jesus told. Now, here's where I believe that I've gotten it wrong. I always used to think that the seed that fell in the path and the seed that fell on the rocky soil and the seed that fell among the thorns, that kind of represented people outside the church. The soil is us. Jesus will explain later, and we're going to be looking at the text where Jesus explains this parable. Because if you've never heard this before, it's kind of a confusing thing. What is the point of all this? So he explains it to his disciples. But I've always thought, yeah, if you're the soil that is rocky or thorny or like the path, then you're outside the church, and it's us that are here this morning and us that are watching online that we're the good soil, right? But I'm not sure I believe that anymore. I think more so Jesus is talking to a lot of people that are following him, and I think he tells this parable as a warning to those that consider themselves followers of Jesus. So as we look at this parable and the explanation of it in Matthew 13, let's just break this down and talk about it a little bit. So starting in verse 18, Jesus says, "Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path." I think it's possible that you can come to church for a really long time and not really ever get it. And Maybe you get to a point where it's like, I'm just going to keep doing it because I never got it before and I probably won't ever get it, but I'm just going to keep coming because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's who this is talking about. People who don't really understand. If you don't have the why behind what you're doing here. The seed, verse 20, falling on rocky ground, refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. Now this is one that I think the American church does not do us any favors. Because if you think about it, we've done a really good job of avoiding persecution. We've done a really good job of creating a safe place for Christians to come where they don't have to worry about someone putting them down or giving them a hard time. And if I think about it further, I consider even if you are a part of a church that is trying to make a difference, and maybe they're bumping up against some tough times because they're trying to impact their community and they're trying to challenge the status quo and they're trying to change things, that if you're uncomfortable with that, well, there's always a church down the street that you can go to. And so we have this environment in the church where we're really able to easily dodge persecution or trouble if we want to. Of course, we have troubles in our lives. But when it comes to troubles that specifically come because we follow Jesus, it's pretty easy to not even have to face that. And who doesn't take the easier choice? Now, looking at verse 22, the seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. The deceitfulness of wealth and the worries of this life. I was looking at some statistics, and according to a 2018 study that I was reading, the average household income in America is about $55,000. I'm not sure if that's still true this year, but it was 2 years ago. If you take that $55,000 mark and apply it to a household of two people and compare that to the rest of the world, you are in the 95th percentile of wealthiest people in the world. That's the average American household. Now, my household has 6 in it. I've got 4 kids, so it kind of drops us down a little bit. We are only in the 78th percentile if I make $55,000 with 6 kids. 78th percentile of wealthiest people in the world. The poverty level here in America is right around $26,000. So some of us don't make $55,000. We say, hey, we're not wealthy like those other people. The poverty line is at $26,000 here in America. If a family of 4 makes a household income of $26,000, you are still just below the 70th percentile of wealthiest people in the world. We are rich. We are wealthy. We don't always feel wealthy, and why is that? It's because we always have someone else to compare ourselves to that's a little bit wealthier than we are, right? We can drive past those neighborhoods that the houses are bigger than our houses. Or we see those cars in the parking lot that are nicer than our cars. We see the people making jobs with jobs that make more money than us. So we don't consider ourselves wealthy because we compare ourselves to those above us. But we are wealthy. So every time Jesus makes some sort of claim or statement about wealth and the dangers of wealth, if anybody should be applying it to themselves, it's us here living in America. And if we don't have wealth to worry about, we have worries, right? Oh, the worries. So many worries. Our health, and I don't even need to go much farther than that, do I? Because we have come up with so many ways to worry about our health. There are so many doctors and so many conditions and so many things going on that anything that feels a little odd in our body, we can probably find a condition and worry about it. If we don't have our health to worry about, we have the bills to worry about, which goes right back to wealth issues. We have our families to consider. We have so many things. And I want you to notice that it doesn't talk, when Jesus mentions this seed that grows up with the thorns, it doesn't say that it kills the plant. It says that it makes it unfruitful. So how does our wealth and how do our worries make us unfruitful? Oh, they're just such distractions for us, aren't they? We have so many good things we could do for the church, but I got to get these bills paid first. I got to get this car paid off. I've got these other things that I need to take care of. I've got my business. I've got my family. I've got these concerns. I will get to following Jesus, and I am following Jesus, but maybe I'm just not as fruitful as I'm supposed to be because I've got all these things that I need to consider. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. If you hear the word and you understand it, if you understand what Jesus is saying and what it really means to follow him, you will produce. I like that he mentions the 100 and the 60 and the 30 because as I follow Jesus, there are a lot of people I look at that I think, man, I can't do what you're doing. You are amazing and I will never live up to that. But he's not saying that we have to. He's saying some people will do a lot, some people will do some, and some people will do a little. But if you understand and if you're really following me, you're going to do something. And it makes me wonder, with the state of the church right now and the things that we are accomplishing or maybe not accomplishing, how much of that are we unfruitful because we don't really understand? We don't really get it. So it might be time for an update for all of us. Now, I want to suggest 3 different updates that we can make that go along with these 3 seeds that have fallen in the soil that's just not good, not as good as it should be. And I want to start by saying that I believe Jesus used the soil as his analogy for a reason. I believe the nice thing that we know about soil is that if you've got bad soil, you can do something about it. If with a pickaxe or a shovel and some fertilizer, maybe some weed and feed and some topsoil, you can change the composition of your soil. And I believe that he's giving us this opportunity, he's giving us this warning because we can change. That maybe if you feel like you've been showing up to church a long time and you don't really understand why you're doing it, you're just doing it, you can do something about that. If you're not really sure that you can handle the pressures that we read and hear about other Christians facing because they follow Jesus, we can do something about that. If you think that your life has been choked out because you have all these worries and all of this stuff to keep track of, we can do something about that. And so I want to make this suggestion of different updates that we can have. Now, thinking of the path soil, the soil that the birds came and snatched it up, this person that does not quite understand, I want to suggest a humility update. Because I think of myself, and when I don't know something that I'm supposed to know, and I feel like I should have known it for a while and I don't have it figured out yet, my pride gets in my way, and I have problems asking for help with things. I would much rather sweep it under the rug, pretend like I know what's going on, smile and nod, and go about my day, and everybody thinking I'm great, than for me to actually be great. And so I want to suggest a humility update, that maybe it takes some humility to admit, I've been doing this, but I've been doing it for the wrong reasons, and I don't really even know what the right reasons are, and I need some help. And if you need someone to talk to, and you want to talk to me, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. I don't have everything figured out yet. We have elders here that would love to talk to you. They don't have everything figured out yet. Sorry, guys. Steve's going to be around here somewhere sooner or later, and Derek too. They'd love to talk to you. They don't have everything figured out yet. We can do this together. So that is what I would suggest if you think that you fall into that category. If you think that maybe this whole idea of persecution or troubles that come along with following Jesus, if that's more of the category that you maybe think that you're struggling with, I would suggest a boldness update. Update your boldness. Now, some of us don't need an update in our boldness. Some of us are plenty bold. But people more like me, there's a chance that you might just shy away from trouble if it comes. And, the scary thing is when Jesus says, if you acknowledge me before men, I will acknowledge you before my Father in heaven. But if you deny me before men, then I will deny you before my Father in heaven. I wonder, I don't want to put words in Jesus' mouth, but if you avoid talking about me with men, would he say that maybe he'll avoid talking about you with his Father in heaven? I don't know. So here's a suggestion for you for boldness. We all have these people in our lives where we kind of have a wave and hi, how you doing? Maybe you have a relationship, maybe you have a neighbor or the mailman or somebody that you see often at a store where you don't really know them, but you're familiar with each other. You might know each other's first name. But maybe there's a person in your life like that you're not really sure. You hope that through your actions and your behavior, they know that you're a Christian and that you follow Jesus. But maybe you're not quite sure. And so my challenge would be, as a practice, go to this person that you might be thinking of right now and just let them know, hey, I've known you for a little while. I want to let you know that I follow Jesus, and he's changed my life, and I think it'd be a good idea for you to follow Jesus too. If you ever want to talk, I'm here for you. Otherwise, have a great day. And just keep it at that. Just give yourself a little experience standing up for Jesus. Maybe this person will hate your guts and is anti-Christian and will think terrible things and try to do something to you. Oh well, that's part of being a Christian, right? Or maybe they'll say, yeah, I'm a Christian too, and you can become best Christian friends. I don't know. You don't know what's going to happen, and that's why it's scary, and that's why it takes a little bit of boldness to do it. So that would be my suggestion for a boldness update for you. Just put yourself out there a little bit, specifically in the name of Jesus. I think sometimes we use church as a bit of a cop-out. Like, oh, well, why don't you come to this church event with me? And it's a safe way to gauge if someone is safe to talk to. But maybe we need to be a little less safe and just get out there for the Savior that we are following. And then we go to the thorny soil. And this one, I think this is the toughest one for all of us. I think even if you're struggling with the other ones, you might be struggling with this one, and you might not even feel it. I think that there are times that I don't even feel that I'm struggling with this, because it's just about becoming unfruitful. It's just about being choked out and being so distracted. Even here at church, I work for the church, and I can be so distracted by putting a program together and organizing an event that I kind of miss the point of why we're doing it, the relationships and the connecting and getting people closer to Jesus, getting people closer to a church family that loves them. So really, the update we need here is surrender. It's surrendering control. Because what is it with wealth and what is it with worry? We have wealth so that we can be in control, and then we have worry because we're out of control. I can't control my health, so I worry about it. If I can't control my wealth, I worry about it. If I have the wealth, I try to use my wealth to pay for my worries to get those taken care of. This is all about me controlling my life, me handling my life. And Jesus said, if you're going to follow me, your life is not your own. It's mine now. And you need to give up. You need to surrender that control. And that doesn't mean being terrible with your finances and going out and throwing all your money away. It doesn't mean not taking care of yourself and not taking your pills when you're supposed to be taking your pills. But man, can we control our mentality? Can we control our perspective about these things so that we put them in the right place behind Jesus? And so those are the updates that I have to suggest for us. And as I look at my life, I think about different times. As I was preparing for this message, I was reflecting on the different times that I've needed these updates and how I really measure up. And do I understand everything always of what's going on with following Jesus? Do I ever avoid persecution or trouble or dodge that? Do I know with confidence that I can stand up for Jesus in any circumstance? Do I let the wealth distract me? Do I let my worries distract me? And my answer to all of these is sometimes. I think that throughout my life I'm going to be needing to make updates in all of these areas. I'm going to need to continue to improve and continue to get better. And so I assume that's the same for you as well. There's a piece in this passage in Matthew 13, in between Jesus telling the parable and explaining the parable, where his disciples come to him and basically say, "Why are you so confusing? You say these things that nobody understands." And Jesus' response is basically, "Yeah, I do that on purpose." Why do I do that on purpose? Because there's a lot of people that show up and follow me because they want to see a show. They want to see the healing. They want to see some miraculous stuff happen. They want to hear a good sermon, but they're not really following me. And if I say something like this and you have no idea what it means, I'm going to see if you're going to come back and look for more. And I'm going to see if you really want to know, if you really want to understand what it means to follow me. And I love how Jesus has laid out, his ministry was not just to die for us, but it was also to lay the foundation for the church. Because Jesus knows when he sent out his disciples, he always sent them out in pairs or in groups. He didn't send people out alone because he knew better than anyone that following him is hard. And following him by yourself is next to impossible. We need the church. He's given us this church because ultimately we're better together. We can feed off each other. We can build off of each other. We can lift each other up. We can help each other understand things we don't understand. We can call each other out when we're getting distracted and not being fruitful. We are better together, and I want to encourage us to be better together.